All right, let's talk about the kissing bug. You hear that name and it sounds almost cute, right? Kind of harmless, but let me tell you, the story behind this insect is anything but romantic. It's actually a pretty serious medical drama about a silent disease that can take decades to show itself, affecting millions of people. So today, we're going to unpack the not-so-sweet story behind this infamous kiss. Here's how we're going to break it down. First, we'll get into that name and the disease the bug carries. Then, we'll follow the incredible journey of the parasite itself. After that, we'll look at what happens to a person who's infected over the long run. And finally, we'll talk about how we can fight back against this silent threat.
So yeah, let's just get right into it. The name is a huge misdirection because the kiss from this bug is one you definitely want to avoid. So, why kissing bug? Well, it comes from a pretty unsettling habit. These bugs are nocturnal, they come out at night to feed on blood while you're fast asleep. And their favorite spot to bite? The face, usually right around the lips and eyes. Yep, it's that creepy tendency to bite you near your mouth that got them the name.
Now, the bite itself, that's not really the issue. The real danger is the disease it passes on, Chagas disease. It's also known as American trypanosomiasis. It's named after Carlos Chagas, this incredible Brazilian doctor, who, way back in 1909, figured out the whole puzzle. He discovered the disease, the parasite causing it, and the bug that spreads it. Just an amazing piece of scientific detective work.
And this is not some super rare, obscure illness. We're talking about an estimated 6 to 7 million people infected with Chagas disease across the globe. Mostly in Latin America, sure, but because of how much we all travel and move around now, it's become a global health problem.
Okay, so to really understand what's going on with Chagas, you have to separate the delivery truck from the dangerous package it's carrying. So let's get into the biology of both the bug and the parasite.
And this is the key thing to get straight. The kissing bug is what we call the vector. It's just the transport system. The pathogen is the actual cause of the disease, a microscopic parasite living inside the bug called Trypanosoma cruzi. They are two totally different organisms in one terrifying partnership.
If you look at the bug's classification, you see it's in the kingdom Animalia, which means it's a metazoan, a complex, multicellular animal, just like us. It belongs to the family Reduvidae, which are known as assassin bugs. Let's be honest, that's a much more fitting name, right?
But the parasite Trypanosoma cruzi is a whole different story. It's in the kingdom Protista. It is not an animal. It's a protozoan, a complex but single-celled organism. So what you have is a fairly large insect carrying around this incredibly tiny, single-celled passenger.
And this is a perfect way to understand the difference between an ectoparasite and an endoparasite. The kissing bug is the ectoparasite. It lives on the outside, feeds, and then leaves. But its little passenger, Trypanosoma cruzi, is an endoparasite. Its whole mission is to get inside your body, to live and multiply in your cells and in your blood.
So, how does it get inside? Well, this part is pretty grim. The parasite isn't in the bug's saliva, so it's not the bite that infects you. What happens is, after the bug bites, it defecates. Right there, on your skin. The bite gets itchy, you scratch it in your sleep, and without even knowing it, you rub the infected feces right into the bite wound, or maybe your eyes or mouth. That's it. That's the moment of invasion.
And while the bug is the main way it spreads, it's not the only way. Chagas can also be passed through contaminated blood transfusions or organ transplants from an infected mother to her baby during pregnancy, and even, rarely, through food or drinks that have been contaminated with the parasite.
So once the parasite makes it inside, it kicks off this lifelong two-act play inside the human body. And Act 1 is dangerously quiet.
The timeline for this disease is just wild. First, there's an acute phase that lasts a few weeks. But then, for most people, the disease just goes silent. They enter this asymptomatic chronic phase that can last for 10, 20, even 30 years, all while those parasites are just quietly taking up residence in their heart and digestive system. And the symptoms in that first acute phase? They're usually so mild. A little fever, some body aches, that people either ignore them or just think they have the flu. This is exactly why Chagas is called a silent disease. The real danger doesn't pop up until decades later, in the symptomatic chronic phase, after severe and often permanent damage has already been done. Now, it's really important to know that not everyone with the chronic infection gets sick. You can see here that about 55% of people actually stay asymptomatic their whole lives. But for the other 45%, the consequences can be devastating.
30% develop serious, life-threatening heart conditions, another 10% get major digestive problems, and a smaller group ends up with nerve damage.
So with a disease this sneaky, how on earth do you even start to fight it? This brings us to our last section, what we can actually do about it, the tools we have for detection, treatment, and most importantly, prevention.
Diagnosing Chagas really depends on what stage of the infection you're in. Early on, in that acute phase, doctors can sometimes actually see the parasite swimming around in a blood sample under a microscope. But in the long, chronic phase, when the parasites are mostly hiding in your tissues, doctors have to rely on serology. That's a blood test that looks for the antibodies your immune system made to fight the infection.
The good news is we do have a cure. Treatment with one of two drugs, benzonidazole or nifurtimox, can actually kill the parasite. But, and this is a really big but, it's most effective when it's given during that very early acute phase. The longer a person has been infected, the less likely the treatment is to prevent or reverse the damage that's already been done.
And this isn't just a problem for Latin America. This number you see here, that's the estimated range of people living with Chagas disease in the Netherlands. It's a perfect example of how human migration has turned a regional disease into a global health issue, showing up in places where you won't even find the kissing bug.
Ultimately, the best way to fight Chagas is to stop people from getting it in the first place. The single most effective method is vector control, so improving houses and using insecticides to get rid of kissing bugs. And in other parts of the world, screening blood and organ donations is absolutely critical to stop it from spreading.
And there is some real hope on the horizon. This quote is about recent research that found powerful neutralizing antibodies. Basically, these are proteins our own immune system can make that completely stop the parasite from causing an infection. This is a massive breakthrough because it points toward potentially developing a vaccine, a tool that could one day end this silent disease for good.
We put this entire analysis together using a Gemini deep search. If you want to dive in deeper and check out the original reports and studies we used, you can find a complete list of all our sources in the Notebook LM document. It's linked down in the description.
So that's the story of the kissing bug, a complex problem with no easy fix. Which leads me to a final question for you. What do you think is the biggest challenge in fighting a silent disease like Chagas, where people might not know they're infected for decades? Let us know what you think down in the comments. And hey, if you found this explainer helpful, please hit that subscribe button for more deep dives. Thanks for watching.